This is Father Andrew Ritchie, and you're listening to Catholic Inspiration, a podcast from my website at studyprayserve.com. These homilies, presentations, and retreats form part of my ministry as a Catholic priest for the Diocese of Superior. And now I invite you to open your hearts to some Catholic inspiration. Every year on the first Sunday of Lent, we hear about the temptations that Jesus will encounter by Satan. This year it's Matthew's Gospel. Temptation. Just a word of context. Jesus has just been baptized by John the Baptist in the Jordan River, and now the Spirit sends him out into the desert, the wilderness. The wilderness is a place where people don't live, but that's where evil lurks. Traditionally in the Scriptures, it's in the wilderness. That's Satan's playground. But before Jesus approaches Satan, he's fasting. 40 days. He's preparing himself. He's got that fasting and prayer. Those spiritual disciplines are going. He's clearly steeped in the Scriptures to encounter the temptations of Satan. It's important that we understand that the Lord will embrace, He's like us in all things but sin, but that means He is tempted, and Satan's going to try his best to tempt the Lord. Because the fact is, friends, Satan tries to tempt us. That when we pause in this season of Lent to recognize that temptations are part and parcel of the human experience, then we can pause for a moment and kind of dissect that. We're tempted at every stage in life. But temptations for a person look very different at 6 than they do at 56. Temptations change as we change. They change as we have different resources, different opportunities, different circumstances. And as our temptations change, then we too have to adjust. The temptations that we face in our modern age with all sorts of digital devices looks very different than not too terribly long ago when we were in an analog world. And yet, as we understand this, we have to continue to recognize where we are tempted. I bring up temptations because we know that if temptations are part of our life, then we have to engage it and say, how am I going to face this? How am I going to deal with this? Now, we understand in the season of Lent where we really do focus on a spiritual life, where we talk about almsgiving, prayer, fasting, that we want to have ourselves immersed in the Scriptures. We want to be receiving sacraments. We want to get to confession. We want to be able to encounter the Lord at the holy sacrifice of the Mass. We want to grow closer to Jesus, and we'll use every spiritual tool that we have possible to grow deeper in our spiritual life, to strengthen us to face our temptations. And that's essential. But there's a component here that we don't get that's important that we raise up. And we understand it if we see how, in the first reading that we had from Genesis, the temptation of our first parents, Adam and Eve. Friends, I'm going to give you a little spiritual principle. We're most vulnerable when we're all alone. We're most vulnerable when we're disconnected from other good people, good fellowship, good connection. That whole united we stand, divided we fall apart. And when we are alone, when we are isolated, we are weak, we are vulnerable, and we're easy prey. And so here in this first reading, taken from Genesis, Satan, the serpent, gets Eve all to himself. Let the temptation that he gives, his whole dialogue that he says, she's all alone. And that should give us an insight into how then, if we're going to face the temptations of our life, we should bring a whole army with us. See, the more connected we are, the more good people we have in our court, the more people that we can pick up the phone and call or lean on, the stronger we will be when temptation comes. The church in the Diocese of Superior this weekend celebrates Safe Haven Sunday. And we talk about, amongst all of the different temptations, the temptation to pornography. And clearly, you want a temptation that preys on us when we're in isolation, that's it. That when we're all alone, late at night, with a cell phone or a computer screen, all sorts of temptations can be opened and available to us. Because again, divided, we fall apart. Isolated, we're weak. So the invitation for us today is not only to grow in our spiritual life in all the ways that Lent allows and affords, but to be mindful of the fellowship we need. That crew of people. It doesn't have to be a big army, but it's got to be somebody who's in our corner, who we can count on and reach out to, especially when we're vulnerable, especially when we're weak, especially when we're tempted. Because one of the big things about temptations like pornography, but you could also put online gambling, anything digital, any number of sins that we can fall prey to, they prey on the fear of shame. We don't like to look weak. We don't like to look vulnerable. We like to look like we've got it all together, that our life is perfect and it's all working just fine. And so out of shame, we can be isolated. And when we're isolated, we're easy targets for temptation. The invitation on this first Sunday of Lent, in light of the temptations of Christ that he overcame, is to recognize that we can also face our temptations with hope and conviction when we're fostering our spiritual life, but then also fostering fellowship. That we reach out to good people when we're weak, when we're hurting, when we're struggling. Maybe to say, hey, pray for me. I'm having a hard time. Or to say, hey, I'm struggling with this and I just need to talk about it. Or to be able to have someone who can say, hey, get to confession. Or, hey, let's strive to reconcile. United we stand. And friends, that means that not only are we asking for help, but then we're there for the people in our life to say, how are you doing? Because I'll help you. I'll walk with you. I care about you. It's not just what we receive from others, but what we give to others that can strengthen us to face the temptations of life. So to bring this all full circle, today we all get to ask, what am I being tempted to? What's my weak spot at this point in my life? To dare to name it, take it to prayer, and when or if it's applicable, to reach out to the people we care about and love and ask for the help we need to face those temptations, and then ask the Lord for the grace to conquer them. God bless you all. This is Father Andrew, and I hope this podcast inspires your faith. Now, if you found it helpful, please share it with a friend. And you can help me by leaving a rating and a review. I keep all my listeners in my daily prayers, and I ask for your prayers in return. God bless you, my friends.